Hey everybody, welcome back to Night Filmism. I am, again, Brian.
I'm Drew.
And we're here to vent to you today because and we've both seen some movies. Like I saw Mission Impossible. Drew, you finally saw
I
what?
finally watched Ex Machina. I haven't been in the movies because we'll talk about that later.
Momentarily, that's the topic of this episode. And you know what? You liked Ex Machina, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
we could go into that in more detail. We kind of have been mulling over trying to do an AI themed movie based episode. And
Yeah,
I think
and-
we've watched enough between us now. It's just a matter of refreshing ourselves on some.
And
some of them.
I really liked Mission Impossible, and I'd like to talk about at some point that franchise versus Bourne and James Bond. But today, we're here to talk about the state of the movie industry in general, specifically relating to two issues. One is our formerly beloved MoviePass. The second is the Oscars and the new category that they're adding. Drew, where do we want to start? MoviePass?
Oh, the movie pass. We could rail on that for a while.
Let's do that first.
Let's go there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all got sold a bill of goods, and they're doing nothing to do anything in good faith to those of us who were in from the ground floor, which I think is ridiculous, and is probably going to be the reason that they're going to go under ultimately.
Well, if for whatever reason humanity totally collapses and this audio clip is all that they recover of our civilization, we should probably explain that MoviePass was originally sold on the idea that you go to these places called movie theaters, because that might also be something for the history book soon.
Oh
But
yeah,
you
well,
go.
with the death of this,
Yeah.
for the most part.
So the idea was you pay $9.95, $9.99
Yeah,
or whatever
something
a
like that.
month,
Roughly $10 a month.
and you would be able to go to the movies once per day. I had originally assumed that they were going to be making up for money by selling, say, revenue. What am I thinking of? Selling demographic information.
Yeah, something like
and
that too.
Just
Yeah,
marketing information
yeah.
for the movie theaters. And it turns out that their actual business model was to get up to about 5 million people, show that they were the sole reason that people were still going to the theaters because no one wanted to pay $12 a ticket, and at that point try to get the movie theater companies to play ball and maybe start cutting them a little bit more slack instead of having them pick up full ticket prices. At least that's how I understand that it was working. They've been sort of cloak and dagger about all this the whole time, but that seems to be the speculation as to how their original model was launched. A couple weeks ago.
No, because I would say a month ago, stuff started
Yeah,
getting
about a
blacked
month
out,
ago.
being blacked
Yeah.
out. And it was like, oh, what's this? And then right around that time was when they did well, you can't see the same picture more than once. Ever.
Which, that kind of made sense. That was in the original terms and agreements, but it was just never enforced.
Yeah, it wasn't enforced initially.
And
But
people
then
were-
that was like, oh, okay, that's okay. And then the law of diminishing returns started rearing its ugly head, because didn't it go down to you could only go to one picture a week, and now their new subscription plan is like 3 a month or something.
Well, I think this is. I have not looked up any numbers, but if I had to speculate, it was Black Panther that killed this because people were going to see Black Panther about a dozen times, and that's barely an exaggeration. People were just going over and over again. So they finally said, "Okay, we're losing money on people using our service to go see the same movie over and over again. So let's stop that." Now, that being said, if you're going by yourself, I understand that it could be a loss. But when I saw Annihilation, I saw it 3 times in theaters on MoviePass. And each time I went, not only was I buying concessions, but I was taking people with me who were paying ticket prices
Yeah.
that were going with me because they said, oh, hey, I trust your recommendation if you want to go. I wasn't paying for a ticket. They were. So, yeah, it could generate more asses in seats, which was the entire ploy the whole time, was
Yeah.
if we can put people into the theaters, maybe the
Well, the
theater
whole thing was
companies...
sinister from the get-go if it was basically just to get these big theater chains over a barrel. I mean, ultimately, what do you think its legacy is going to be? Is it going to be one of those, like, eventually VH1's going to do a pop culture, do you remember the 2010s? And, hey, remember when MoviePass was cool for, like, half a year? But,
It was great while it lasted. But their stock dropped to, what, 5 cents a share?
I don't know. I mean...
They had to do 100 to 250
It was
reverse
always too good to
split
be
on
true.
their...
You know,
yeah.
it always rang as something too good to be true, so that's why everybody went for it. At least those of
Yeah.
us who like going to the movies. I'm still gonna go to the movies. even if I gotta pay. But what's cool is the legacy of this might be that theaters might realize you can't charge $12 for a showing. It might be at what MoviePass rates are. Or like you're seeing AMC, I think was the first to do it.
Yep.
They've got their own subscription pass, so you might have this start showing up, and then it just becomes almost like a which ones are you gonna have in terms of streaming services, where it's like, oh cool, I'm gonna go to the movies. Oh, you don't have a Regal pass, you only have a Dipson pass. Okay, so we can't go to the movies together. Like that's where it might be going. I'm hoping it just ends up being a all right. We realize we've been stiffing people. We're gonna level off the not concessions. Concessions aren't gonna go down. No. They never go down anywhere. So just deal with that. But if it means, hey, you know, you're not going to a matinee, or if you're going to, because I think recently, if you went to a matinee of a first showing, like a original week, you were paying like full price. You were paying like $12 for a matinee.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous. Matinees used to be like $7 or $8 when we were younger, and that was like the whole reason to go.
I mean, depending
on what theaters you were going.
I mean, during the summer, I still remember because getting dropped off at the mall to kill a day.
You know what? I for the longest time kept all of my stubs from every movie I went to. I mean, I could look through years and it's like, oh, $4, $7, $10, $12, $13. Like just as the years go by, just the inflation of movie prices when the experience offered was no different.
Yeah, I still remember.
And this is not like paying for D-Box or paying for 3D because fuck 3D.
Well, I still remember when I was, 14? That's when Godzilla came out, the 98 one.
Oh, Matthew Broderick.
Yeah, and I still distinctly remember, okay, it's a day during the summer, parents drop you off at the mall. You've got how much money? Oh, $10? Great. I can go and I can get my Taco Bell. Remember the all the commercials with the Chihuahua and Godzilla? Yeah. So I could go to Taco Bell, get tacos and a drink, then still have enough money to buy a movie ticket for about $10.
Yeah.
I know that we're going to sound to some people like, remember when gas was under $1? But this is sort of what I grew up doing with when a matinee was.
Yeah, well, this is going to really date us, but this is inflation for inflation's sake. There's no driving, like, you're not offering a different experience. Every theater now, it practically is a stadium seating theater. So you don't need to charge me $12 because, oh, we don't have as many seats because it's not just, pile them up towards the front. It's stacked. No, every theater is a stadium seating now. Yeah. So there's no... When Regal first came out, that was like it's a little bit more pricey. And then when AMC over on Maple did started the assigned seating, that was their excuse to be like, oh, we're $1 or $2 more because you don't have to like rush in and try to get a bunch of seats with your friends. But now everything is assigned seating. Everything is stadium sized. And there's no reason for that value to have gone up that much.
This is iPhone overcharging for things that have been on Droids for years.
Yeah.
That's another conversation that we will not have. No, but MoviePass, I'm going to probably sound very naive here, but I think it's a good thing. I think that it could be a sustainable model, and I think that it's a little... It's good business, but total bullshit for AMC and other theaters to sit back and say, okay, here's a trailblazing service that went and put everything on the line and tried to make something worthwhile to get people back into movie seats. I mean, yes, they weren't doing it out of altruism. They were doing it for the sake of making money eventually. But they were ballsy enough to go and do it. And it could have worked. Movie theater companies saw that it could work, decided to kneecap them, and decided to make their own instead. Again, that's just business.
And that's only within the last 6 months of it existing, really.
Yeah. But shit really hit the fan. We got an idea that maybe we should consider canceling our subscriptions when out of nowhere, there was a total blackout.
Yeah, and then, there was like a couple of days where there was
nothing. And then you find out, oh, okay, they took out an emergency loan. But when that happened, a couple of the bigger blockbusters weren't available to be seen. That was the weekend that Mission Impossible Fallout came out. So, okay, well, I've got this service, but now I can't see a major movie coming out. And I'm just going to pull up some text messages because I've texted you a couple times about this with the movies that we can and can't see. We're recording this on a Thursday. It was, I believe, on Tuesday that I texted you to say, let me check here. Yep, Tuesday, only
Was it
movie
Christopher
available.
Robin and what else?
No, hold on. Tuesday was Mission Impossible. So Mission Impossible, I went and I actually paid to see because I wanted to see it. And then on Tuesday, it was literally the only movie available at any MoviePass ticketing theaters. So even if I wanted to see some little indie movie, which I honestly was why I got this, to see stuff that I wouldn't maybe otherwise see, I couldn't see any of that. And then yesterday, Wednesday, it switched over to Crazy Rich Asians and Christopher Robin.
See, you know what they should consider is because the whole app is essential to using it. If they're gonna like only let you see certain things, like you should be able to schedule when you're going to see that, because otherwise they could just gatekeep and be like, okay, like Ryan, you got your account what in February?
Give or take. Yeah.
Like, okay, Ryan got his in February. Like on Monday he'll be able to see like what came out last Friday. But I got mine in like April, so maybe mine won't be available till the next Tuesday or something. So it's like it defeats the purpose of, hey, if you both have MoviePass, you can't see the movie at the same time. But if you could be like, okay, these are the movies that will be available this week if you care to see, what days would you want to see them? And it's like, okay, Ryan, do you want to go see like this? Okay, what day works for you? Let's do it Thursday. If we could lock in on a Monday, like you're only going to get one day this week to see one of these movies. Lock in Tuesday as the day that movie's available for you. That would work, even if they're going to do it that way.
And even that is speculation. It sounds like a hassle for them, considering how poor their app has performed.
Well, it's a hassle for them to sell you the lemonade, and then all you get is the Crystal Light powder.
And that's being generous.
Yeah.
I mean, water I can get, no problem. But, no, today, by the way, is The Meg and Black Klansman. So, yeah.
It's almost like the studios are sweating them to drum up some viewership for the stuff that nobody but the old ladies and the old men who just go to every movie see.
I don't know. It's just a shame because this really had me going to the movies. I was paying full price concessions and justifying it because, you know what? I'm not paying for the ticket.
Well, the other thing, too, about it was when it was in its halcyon days, you were more willing to see stuff that you wouldn't bother going to the theaters to see because you weren't really paying for it. You weren't out of pocket to go see something that, a friend said hit a scene that was funny, or like, we want to see this for the podcast or whatever. Like,
and how many times did we do that? Multiple. Yeah. Like, we weren't going to see A Quiet Place.
No, like, it was something that intrigued us.
I was going
maybe,
to.
yeah.
I was going to anyway. You're not a horror movie guy.
Yeah.
But you said, oh, okay, well, I'll go see
we have
this.
MoviePass. We might as well. And
Black
that's like
Panther.
the last time that we've been able to do it.
Black Panther.
Yeah.
Neither of us gave a shit about seeing Black Panther. And we used that, and we went after work one day and saw it.
But yeah.
Disaster Artist.
Oh, I was going to see Disaster Artist regardless, but...
But we have a cheap theater around here. The one in the McKinley is $3 per ticket.
Yeah.
And basically what MoviePass has been doing for me was stuff that I wanted to see in a theater but was okay with waiting until it was in the $3, the cheapie second run. I'm seeing now first run instead.
Yeah.
And that's really what I got MoviePass for. But what I really feel bad for the people that locked into 1-year subscriptions, because I've read through the terms and agreement on theirs versus mine. Mine's month to month. What's yours?
Mine was mine. I got the yearly rate. So
Okay, you got a year.
Yeah, but I got mine at discounted. So I basically got a year for like minus 3 months cost wise. Oh. So I don't really care that much, but I'm not going to renew if this is what it's going to be unless they really, like I said, figure ways out to be like, yeah, you can only go to one a week or one a month or whatever. But because at this rate, I'm only going to be going once or twice a month.
And most people who got the year, you can't just cancel. Yeah. And if you, first of all, there's horror stories of people canceling and then being automatically resubscribed. That's been making the rounds in the news.
Oh, who are on a monthly? That's weird.
No, yearly, I think.
People are around for a year yet, though. Just getting an email saying like, oh, well.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong then. Maybe it was monthly, but
I think it only started in January or February this year. I could see it being somebody monthly, and then they're looking at their statement, and they're like, wait, what? Why did $12.50 or whatever get taken out of my?
Anyway, rest in peace, MoviePass. You were a good idea. We've talked about you many times on here and how much we loved your service. Not your customer service. That was always shit because you had 3 people working for you in a garage somewhere. But the
It's
idea,
real cottage industry.
yes, I was one of the few people who had no issues that required calling customer service, so I had a great time with it while it lasted. But with my monthly subscription, if it doesn't get to the point, I can't plan, not knowing what's coming out. I can't say, hey, let's go to the movies Thursday, because I don't know what's going to be on Thursday or on Friday that I can see. I'm going to wake up in the morning and just check to see what's there and decide that day if I want to go to the movies, which for someone like me with a tight schedule, kind of difficult to work around.
Yeah.
That being said, though, we're going to segue into the other topic by me saying at some point I might just stop wanting to put my money into movies at all in the box office because of the new Oscar category.
When you sent that, because I think it was an Onion article, no, was it an AV Club article?
I believe it was AV
I was like,
Club.
oh, this has to be like an Onion like rib. No, it's legit.
It is legit. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, I haven't really looked into all the details yet because I don't think they've officially been announced, but they're adding a category to the Oscars for Best Popular Picture. Is that, you read the article too, right?
Is that like it's the you showed up award?
This is, I think this is finally, this was all ABC. ABC's got the contract for the Oscars, and they know that viewership is down. Granted, it is still the most viewed of all of the award shows.
Ceremony.
It is still top dog. I don't see that changing anytime soon. But viewership is down. They need to drive viewership back up. So they're making 2 major changes. One is putting in a popular movie category. 2 is that they're going to start eliminating, not eliminating the awards themselves, but no longer showing some of the awards. So
I can see that because there's a lot of stuff I think that gets dealt with pre-televised anyways.
No.
No?
As far as I'm aware, most of the they've got
maybe it's
other,
only the Emmys that does that. The Emmys does like an entire show before the show for a lot of the television categories.
The Oscars have other awards shows for the more, I don't even know if it's the Oscars, but there's like similar shows that is specifically for technical stuff and other things.
Yeah, that's right. That's what. But
that's a separate show.
They're going to stop airing all the ancillary biggies.
Right. So you're no longer
against, honestly. Not that I ever really watched it.
You're no longer going to see during. I think they're going to do it during the commercials actually, where they're going to have the award for say best animated short.
So they might do an NFL draft style where you see it on a ticker as commercials are going.
Basically, yeah.
Which isn't really the worst thing ever because
it depends. Yes and no.
Unless you really make a night out of it, like do you really care about like what a sound designer says for 5 minutes?
Yes, and here's why. I don't give a shit about Best Picture. In general,
well, I think this is a response to Best Picture being things that came out in the last 3 months that only people who go to art house cinema see.
Yes and no. I got pissed off because if you look at something like Fury Road, and anyone listening to this knows how much we both love that movie. The year that came out, I had a huge rooting interest because for the first time in a long time,
you were vested in Best Picture and visual effects.
I absolutely was, and it swept the technicals. If you're going to sweep that many categories, at the end of the day, that comes down to the director. And the fact that George Miller was nominated, that his movie took the most Oscars of anything that night, but he himself did not get the director award, kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. And you know what? I get it. The Oscars are bullshit. It's an industry award show that happens to be televised.
Yeah,
we shouldn't
that
care.
Through the years, gained the cash to be the award ceremony.
But I do care about it in the sense that in a number of years, when people are looking back on things, people are going to say, oh, okay, this won Best Picture. So when we're talking about the Library of Congress, declaring something culturally important, this is the stuff that they're going to be looking at. So just from a general abstract cultural perspective, it does kind of matter what gets picked. which brings us to this new category.
Based on this year alone, like Black Panther would win it. But
I understand the motive behind it. It's basically saying, okay,
can we make sure that whatever gets this award gets a silver Oscar and not a gold Oscar? Just because it's an also ran, it's not necessarily like an achievement.
Well, backing up just a little, then we'll get back into that. I understand the reason for it. If people have a rooting interest, like I did when Mad Max was out, or when Blade Runner was up for a bunch of technicals, or Dunkirk was up for technicals, I'm watching it because I've got a rooting interest, and I know that maybe not everyone watches it for these reasons, but when it comes to sound editing and design and cinematography and everything else, these are the behind the scenes things that maybe don't always get the buzz that they should.
True, but you're not gonna get the aspects of that from an Oscar speech. You really,
No.
if you're interested in that, I don't know. It's more of a you want the confirmation bias.
Yes, but I also like to see, like, oh, okay, I'm watching this. Like, if you tell me that Roger Deakins is doing cinematography on a movie, I am more likely to watch it.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a way to get some name recognition for the people who aren't always looked at by casuals.
Yes. And that's sort of, I like seeing when somebody like George Miller's wife, she ended up getting Best Editor for Fury Road. And it's kind of nice to see the people who would otherwise be faceless be able to get their moment in the sun.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that are, at the end of the day, making what we love. And I like being able to watch that.
Well, yeah. I guess we do take for granted that nowadays, at least the more nuanced you are in watching movies, you care about both director and director of photography.
Yeah. And
I'm betting that really does come from the Oscars, because like that's something I've noticed that I care about more nowadays than I did in the past, and I guess that will be lost or diminished if that stuff isn't as apparent. But then again, now everything is all CG based. So stuff like what ILM was doing in the 70s and stuff for Star Wars with like Ben Burtt's sound design is all just a wall of Asian names that shows up because they outsourced to like Weta or something.
yes and no. I mean, there's still some traditional stuff being done. And one way or another,
I think there may be more of it nowadays because people are sick of seeing that. But that's another topic for another time.
Right. But what they're going to do is try to give people a rooting interest. Like you said, Black Panther. It would. I will put money that Black Panther would be, if they introduce it this year, will be the winner, because you can. We've already talked about
Is
how
it the
it's
best
been.
Marvel movie that came out
No,
quality-wise?
no. We've already talked about how we thought it was a little bit overblown. You could go back and listen to that podcast.
It really, to us, it feels like a joke that we're not in on, that everybody else thinks is hilarious.
Yeah. But it crushed the box office. It had all this talk, all cultural touchstone. But again, go listen to the podcast on that one. We've already covered this. Don't want to rehash all of that. But I pulled up IMDb's list of movies from the last since the year 2000, and
highest grossing, basically.
Highest grossing, exactly.
Which therefore is probably going to be the benchmark.
So yeah, these are the things.
So when as Oscar season starts coming up, and hey, new guy, we need 850 words on whatever. They literally just go to the IMDb top grossing, and hey, here are the 5 movies you should look for to be at the top of this category.
Well, there are 2 on this list. When I went back to about the top 20.
Yeah.
Because the list went on and on and on, but I looked at the top 20 and just jotted down a few notes. There's only 2 that I felt should really have gotten any
recognition. Whatsoever.
Lord of the Rings.
Which Lord of the Rings?
The highest grossing of the 3 was Return of the King.
Which makes sense, finale.
Right, and that's the one that took home every Oscar that year. And, at the expense of Master and Commander, which we've already talked
Yeah.
about. But you know what? I'm not upset. I love the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
At least the original trilogy. The other one, and now that one was down towards about number, I don't know, about 15, give or take. I don't have the list in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 on this list was The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Which
The Dark Knight so maybe are you about to say that there is a correlation between stuff that was?
I'm saying that there's only 2 on this list of top 20 that has any crossover,
or that we would deem culturally significant in terms of what could be in this category.
Number 1 on the list was Avatar, which I don't think will come as a surprise to anybody. Now,
Blue Space Pocahontas is one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen.
Right behind The Dark Knight was Shrek 2.
Oh wow!
Right. Bringing up the conversation we were talking about earlier, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, in 2006 is like the 4th highest grossing movie of the last 20 years. The whole Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy,
still holding strong.
All 3 of them were on the list. It was nice to see at least the first one up there. Again, not Oscar worthy.
Wow.
I
remember even going into 3 bad word of mouth.
Finding Nemo. Here's where it gets really bad, though. The stuff that.
And you figure this is going to be the stuff that'll be in there because if you're going on a yearly basis, you're looking at the top 5 that year, and the top 5 that year are not always going to be winners.
2007. The first Transformers.
Oh, good lord, no.
Transformers Revenge of the Fallen in 2009.
Oh my god, I forgot those movies made so much money that they ended up pumping more money into them.
2005. Would you care to guess 2005?
No.
Come on.
No.
Do it.
Just give it to me.
No. Plinkett has done an entire review on it.
In 2005?
Yeah.
What?
Sith.
Really?
Revenge of the Sith. It was one of the top grossing movies of the
last 20 years. All it's telling me is culturally we like the end of things.
Finding Nemo, not really a surprise. Family movie.
No, not bad at all either. It's just
I've watched it begrudgingly because other people in the same room as me were watching it, and that's where the air conditioning was. But I'm not it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying though. Not for what it is, not terrible, but again, not my thing. But going down the list a little bit more, holy hell, Passion of the Christ.
Oh man.
It was in 2004.
You know what it might be? You know what? This might get us future episodes because we can predict going into a year what's coming out and what's going to be in this category. What tripe will be in this category by the end of the year?
Harry Potter. Well, a couple of them made it on the list.
Yeah, I can see that.
It makes sense.
Those actually got better as they kept making them.
By the final one, because I've watched all of them. My ex and I.
The final one's awesome.
Yeah.
Deathly Hallows is sick.
I really liked most of the last one. There's a little bit of stuff that was just sort of But overall, compared to at least the first couple, because I never seen them. So
my only Harry Potter experience is through, because you and I are of that age where we could have started reading them, but we were a little target demographic. We were about 3 years older than the target demographic. I mean, that doesn't mean that people our age didn't really get into them. And there were a lot of people that did, because like there's some worthwhile YA stuff that's worth reading. But I was always in the boat of I don't really feel like reading YA. I'll go to the movies, and that's the only experience I have with them. And I find that they're a good series.
I was big into Stephen King at the time that those were first coming out, so it was just not. And Tom Clancy too. I was reading The Hunt for Red October, and my classmates were reading Harry Potter. Yeah. So it was just it just wasn't my thing. It
was something that we dipped our toes into, but we never went full bore until
when I was with my ex.
I remember like waking up and getting ready for school and seeing like, oh, people were out at midnight at Media Play. Oh God, I missed Media Play to get Deathly Hallows Part 1 and all, and holy shit, the book's this big, and it's like, yeah, that's like a normal adult size book.
No, my ex was totally like, how the hell have you never seen these? So I ended up watching those with her.
It's one of those weird like contemporary cultural divides. Like there are people in your own age group that are really into something that you're not into that you remember being popular. That type of thing. So we just segued into Harry Potter for a couple of minutes there, but it's a lot of what this category is going to be made up with is a lot of sequels and a lot of just blockbuster tripe.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be hugely. I don't want to say political, but it's going to just be, what are we going to get people to watch this award show with? So let's
The thing
cherry
that'll be
pick.
interesting to see, though, is I can't wait for because there will be controversy with this, because if the Academy is still the ones voting on it, they're going to probably decide based on looking at the top grossing of the year, or they'll probably have other stats like Twitter and things like that to use to look at, and then they're still going to decide. So like you can have a year where like the seventh Transformers movie makes $1 bajillion, and people think like, oh, it's better than the others, which I don't know how it can't be. But and it loses to something that's a little bit better narratively, that made slightly less money and wasn't as popular on every social media site. And I can't wait to see that happen, because I'll be like, that will be the time where I'll be like, yeah, I don't really like this category, but I approve the decision of, you're trying to just normify this and make it like nonsensical, but like we're still gonna be like, we want something that has at least, a narrative structure, is coherently crafted and significantly done.
Well, how about this? I'm going to name a movie, and you tell me if you think it would be in the popular movie category or traditional Best Picture. So,
yeah.
Hold on. I'm just going to start naming movies, and you tell me. Fury Road. Which side does it
would
fall
probably be
on?
in best. It would probably be in best. It would probably be in Best Picture, just because it was more technically significant and bare bones narrative wise, for in a way that people who want to see blockbuster stuff
Okay.
find to be lesser than what they want, but it's more in
Blade
different
Runner?
Ways. Blade Runner was never going to be anything other than a Best Picture now.
Okay.
It's a sequel to a niche movie.
Dunkirk? I mean, that was...
Dunkirk, again, if you're not interested in the history of it or in the people involved in making it, you weren't going to see it, so it was always going to be in one of the more traditional categories.
So I think that's pushing us towards the area of, this is basically going to be Marvel movies and Star Wars movies.
Yep. It's probably going to be the big summer stuff is where this is going to... The big summer and November, early December stuff is going to be what's going to carry this category. So you're going to see a lot of really shitty comedies that probably kill it in like November, when everybody's done eating turkey and go to the movies with their family.
There's got to be a silver lining somewhere in here.
Well, here's what, like, say like a Purge sequel does really well one year and gets into that category. It might bring about like a resurgence of, hey, people like horror again, or people like this type of stuff again.
I mean, it may get people to watch the entire show, which would be
That's true.
ironic, because here's us earlier on talking about how some of these categories that I watch for on the technicals are probably going to be the ones relegated to the commercials.
Yeah.
So the people that would otherwise start hearing these names...
There are certain things that can get relegated.
Yes.
Like,
Best
like
short animated.
Foreign animated,
Yeah.
foreign short film,
short.
that type of stuff can easily be relegated. I think we're close to the age where we don't need a live performance of the nominees for Best Original Song.
I have gotten to the point where I don't even watch some of it live. I will let my DVR take...
I don't even watch it.
I
I just look at the summary list on like AV or something the day after to be like, oh, okay, I see who won.
I was live tweeting some of it from our account last year, so I kind of had to watch sort of live. But it was... I don't know. I usually leave a little bit of slack so I can fast forward through the songs.
Oh, yeah.
Or I'll go take a shit.
Unless it's Blame Canada.
Yeah, Blame Canada, or the ones that make it into the Bond movies, if they ever get nominated.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, Chris Cornell doing a Bond movie, that's kind of cool. I'll watch that. But another Disney movie...
Yeah,
please,
which seems every year.
Please, stop. I don't care. I know people are into that. I'm not one of them. So... any final thoughts?
Like I said, I think this is one of those things that I think it further diminishes the diminishing value of the Oscars, and it also kind of sheds a light on the fact that I think they're starting to realize that maybe because more people are being outspoken about the Academy and like the facelessness of it in the industry, in avenues now with social media that people have access to, that people are starting to kind of side more with the talent over the Academy nowadays. Whereas I think, if you go back as far as the 80s, like, it was a big deal what took what awards. And nowadays I think people are like, it's just the Academy. Like everybody kind of feels like an insider nowadays, to where they're like, oh, nobody knows who they are. Everybody thinks that they're this faceless like collection of old people. And then you start hearing about like, oh, the demographics of them. There are a handful of like mid-30s people or whatever in it now. Like I feel like they've started having to leak a little bit more about what makes up the Academy, in response to the fact that people are like, the only things that are ever in the Best Picture categories are Meryl Streep movies and movies that maybe 20 people saw in your local area because 2 art theaters had it.
Yeah, and because Buffalo, where we live, is a cultural wasteland, and we don't get to see this stuff until the year after. And it's weird, too. I follow a lot of film guys from over in the UK, and a lot of them don't get to see things like the one guy, he's Scottish, and he mentioned that 3 Billboards only just came out over there a few months ago.
Yeah.
So, just one last thing. Looking at the top movies so far of 2018 are Black Panther, Avengers, Incredibles 2, Jurassic World, Deadpool, Jumanji, Solo, and Ant-Man.
Nice.
You know...
They might as well just call it the Marvel category, with them pumping out 3 movies a year, it seems.
And what they're going to do, they're going to end up picking whatever of that list is what they're deeming the most culturally relevant. So this year's going to be Black Panther.
Well, yeah, Black Panther probably would win, even though I would be so mad that Infinity War didn't win. Because I almost picked it up today. I was like, I didn't know this already came out.
This is the kind of category that I almost wish was around when Deadpool, the first one, had come out.
Yeah.
Deadpool's not great, but it's a great snub to a lot of other things.
It's, you know what it is? It's the, you've been drinking the Marvel Coca-Cola. Every once in a while you want to have a Sprite. It's still a soft drink, but it's slightly different, so it kind of re-energizes you for, oh, I have another, like, fridge pack of Coke to drink. I might as well have, like, something different for a day.
But wrapping it all up with the death of MoviePass and the fact that movie theaters will continue to die.
Everything is terrible and will continue to be terrible.
Ultimately, everything we just talked about with these popular categories, eventually when it's only Marvel, Disney movies in movie theaters, at that point, will this category even matter? Because everything...
I think it would be relatively DOA. I mean, it'll have the appeal of, oh, people will watch that first year for it, because it'll probably be... Will it close the show, or will Best Picture still close it? I still think the big 3 have to close the show.
You would hope, but
it might be the proverbial opener for the final 3.
It could, but if they're trying to get people to watch to the very end, they might push it to the back.
That's true.
But eventually, if no one goes to the movie theaters and it all becomes corporate-owned Disney theaters...
I feel like whatever wins...
This will be how we're done.
I feel like whatever wins, the producer should be the one that comes out. Just the guy who had nothing to do with anything but the fronting of the money. Just because that's the kind of category it seems like it's going to be.
And then when you find out that Mel Gibson is still involved with making movies, maybe people will just... On that note, we're going to end it there. We'll be back soon with some more content. Thanks for listening.